What do you know about Kyoto's food scene? And do you know that they have really good vegetarian options if you know exactly where to look? Come along with me as I explore Kyoto's food scene and take you to some of my favorite moments while traveling in Japan. After spending 7 days in Tokyo, it's time to travel to Kyoto via bullet train, which can reach speeds up to 200 miles per hour. Since this was a travel day, we arrived after dark and the rumbling and abilities started to kick in, so we headed over to the Gion district of Kyoto, which is also referred to as the Geisha district, as it's home to several temples and shrines, but just a short walk from the entrance of Yasaka Shrine was the restaurant that specializes in curry udon, which we had for dinner. Do you know what that restaurant was called? It's Mimikyu. On the vegetarian menu, it has 6 different options with the ability to choose your own flavor of the curry and the type of udon noodle in the dish. The main reason we chose this place was because it had a vegetarian curry udon, and we ordered the kitsune curry udon that came with vegetable tempura, and the second one we ordered was the fried eggplant curry with kitsune vegetables that included pumpkin as one of the vegetables. With the bellies full, it was time to head to the hotel and get a good night's sleep before venturing and exploring other amazing food places out there in Kyoto. When we woke up the next day, we were greeted by something else that Japan is famous for, rain. But this wasn't going to kill our spirits, so the destination we decided to travel to first was this Buddhist temple of Maizuko-kanan. But first we had to ascend up Sanezaka while in the pouring rain, but this meant we got to preview some of the foods to come. Once reaching the top, we explored the surrounding area and were able to take in the surrounding maple trees that just turned their signature red color. Do you know what else is in season at the time of this recording? Chestnuts, which you can see at several vendors while they're roasting them and making them into all sorts of tasty snacks. And this leads us to our first stop of the day, which was this sweets vendor that had 2 things that caught our eye. First was this mochi that had a roasted chestnut in the center and adds an extra layer of texture to the already soft and chewy treat. The second was dorayaki, which is 2 little pancakes that are about the size of a soda dollar, and then they sandwich azuki bean paste. These snacks are just a thing to hold us over until we got to our next spot. Quick sidebar, if you want to see a Starbucks that is designed in the traditional style, take a slight detour from here to go check it out. Okay, back to the food stuff. Now, if you come to Kyoto and get caught in the rain like we did, the best place to get street food while undercover is Nishiki Market, which is about a 7-minute walk away from Gion. And do you know what the first thing that caught our eye was while exploring this area? It was these soy milk croquettes. What's better than something battered and fried on a cold, rainy day than maybe these soy milk donuts I saw? But I digress. Okay, back to the soy milk croquettes, which were amazing, by the way. They're crispy on the outside and melt in your mouth, creamy on the inside. If anyone has a recipe on how to make them, drop it down below. And to wash it down, we got a small glass of fresh soy milk. It has a thicker consistency than commercial soy milk and honestly tastes like drinking unsweetened tofu in a glass. Next up was this fried things on a stick, which were circular fish cakes, not because they actually had fish in them, and these ones specifically had sweet potato and carrot inside of them. And they kind of reminded me of a similar texture to some fried eggs. And then lastly, for something more on the sweet side, you guessed it, another mochi, but this one had onko bean paste in it and then a chestnut in the center. We did make one stop before grabbing dinner, and we headed over to the Kyoto Beer Lab to grab some beers. And if you want to see more on the beer scene in Japan, check out the video that's linked down below in the description. So for dinner, we returned to the same area as Nishiki Market and went to Chow Chow Gyoza, as they had a vegetarian-friendly gyoza. It's something that can be hard to come by in Japan. After a long day of exploring and eating, we headed back to prepare for a hopefully drier day in Kyoto. Now this next place may be the best tofu experience I've ever had, and let me show you how to get there first. So the first thing you're going to do is take a train bound for Sonobe and ride that to the Saga Arashiyama stop, which is about 1 kilometer away from our destination, just outside the bamboo forest. The destination we were heading towards was Yodofu Sagano, and for ease of ordering, this restaurant has a set menu. There's limited seating inside, so we put our names in when we arrived, and after a few minutes, they brought us into the secondary outdoor waiting area that was surrounded by huge bamboo trees and a koi stream right behind it. After crossing through the store, we were brought into this huge open-air courtyard, and this place is very traditional, so we had to remove our shoes before entering. And then we were led up to the second floor and sat on the floor overlooking the courtyard. Once we sat down, they brought us our first item as an appetizer and enjoyed some hot tea while the rest of the meal was being prepared. On the senator's table, it was equipped with a gas burner that would be used to heat up the tofu hot pot that we'll get in a second. And the rest of the meal came out with each item being in its own little serving bowl, and we got 6 unique dishes that were served along with a dipping sauce for the tofu in the hot pot. And I'm sure you were wondering, was it worth the trip? The answer is yes. Everything was amazing, and by far, this is some of the best tofu I've ever had in my life, as the texture of the tofu was just silky smooth, as it's made fresh here. And everything else that we had was packed with flavor. The last item before dessert was some fried vegetable tempura, and then dessert came out. And for dessert, it was the silky smooth tofu pudding topped with the raspberry sauce that just completely blew my mind, as I'd never had tofu as dessert before, and the raspberry sauce just complemented it so well. I would give this place a 10 out of 10 and would recommend this place to anyone who goes here. And as you can see, we were definitely part of the Clean Plate Club, finishing everything we were served and then took one more look around before leaving. Now, the last thing to answer is how much does this cost? And a set meal was 4,400 yen, which I understand is a bit pricey, but for me, it was truly a one-of-a-kind amazing experience. And let me know if you end up going here and what your favorite item was that you had. This area is also famous for the bamboo forest, which we walked through before training back into Kyoto to go to one of the most iconic places there. And when we arrived, it was just around sunset or golden hour to Fushiratashi, which is home to about 32,000 torii gates. So after walking through so many torii gates, it was time to find dinner, and we wanted to see if we could match the experience we had at lunch. After walking down this side street next to a rushing stream and turning right onto this other street, we arrived at Gion, which has vegetarian Okonomiyaki. And this restaurant is one of the reasons why I love Japan, as once you enter and get a look inside and order food, it's just fantastic. So to drink, we started with some umeshu as a beverage, and then we ordered Okonomiyaki with a fried egg on top, and the second one came with mochi cheese. If you've never eaten Okonomiyaki before, it's sometimes referred to as a Japanese pizza and is served on a hot surface. You get a metal spatula to cut it up into bite-sized pieces so you can put it on your plate and eat it with chopsticks. So again, I highly recommend this place if you want something that's truly amazing. And when we were leaving, we knew we made the right choice for dinner, as there's a line out the door. The next day before we traveled outside the city, we actually returned to the same place as earlier in the video to get some more curry udon. And then we began our journey to Ogato Onsen. This was about an hour or so train ride outside of Kyoto, which was followed by a long walk to the onsen, where we were staying at. And just FYI, if you come here and have a way to call the front desk, they'll totally come pick you up in a van at the station. The place we stayed at was Baiwa Ko Ryoku Suite, that was located right by the water of Lake Biwa. After being checked in, it was time to see the room, which was one of the best accommodation experiences I've ever had in my life. The room we booked had a great view of the lake, and one of the main reasons for booking this specific room was as its own private onsen on the balcony, which is constantly being refilled with hot water from the underground. And the view from this onsen was just amazing, as you could overlook the lake. And right as we got here, the sun was just starting to set around 4 o'clock. Now, just before dinner, we went downstairs for happy hour, and I have a little side story to tell you. A quick side story about this. So when we were at the Ryokan, happy hour was around 6 o'clock, and you got a coin that you could put in the machine and it dispensed wine for free. And I thought that because it was happy hour, maybe some of the other drinks were free. So I went up to the bartender to ask for Nihonshu, which is sake. And the bartender was like, okay, give me a second. And she walked away. And about 10 minutes later, came back with a full bottle and just asked me for my room number. We then proceeded to open it and drink it, and it was some of the best sake I personally have ever had to this day, and we had no idea how much it was going to cost. We then go to dinner, we look on the menu, and they ask if we want anything to drink, and they had a list of sake, and they're all in the 1,000 to 1,800 yen range, so we were hoping that it wasn't crazy expensive. And when we got the bill, when we checked out, this was only 1,200 yen for the whole bottle, which turns out about $10 American, which isn't too bad for how good it was. The other crazy thing about that place is they did have this one specifically in a set of 3 at the gift shop. So we picked it up, and now I have it, and I'll try it again sometime in the future. But with all that said, let's get back to the actual food at the Ryokan. Now for dinner, the meal is included with the stay, and they gave us a printed out menu, but it was all in Japanese, so we had only had a rough idea of what we were eating for dinner. Also, if you don't eat fish, I apologize in advance, as this place only has 2 options for dinner, and that's either beef or fish, which is very common in Japan, so that's why we chose fish for dinner. And just like that, the food courses just started to come out, one after another, with the second round being some very, very nice sashimi, and I can't tell you specifically what we ate, as I truly don't know, but everything was just amazing, except for this. I just didn't like this stuffed fish because of the texture of the material inside. Lastly, for dessert, there's this little cake that came with a sweet potato chip on top. Now, breakfast was a little bit of a different story, as it was buffet style, where you could eat as much as you want and pick and choose from the different items they had. And they had so many different things to choose from, so I got a little bit of everything. And one of the most amazing things I tried, which I guess I didn't record, was they had a chocolate soy milk slushy machine, and then you could add mochi balls to that. After finishing breakfast, we tried to soak in as much time as we could here before checking out. And if you're looking for a truly unique Japanese experience, I highly recommend going to this Ryokan, or one similar to it. I do realize that a private onsen was more on the pricier side, so if you're looking for something similar to this, but at a more reasonable price, just get a standard room and use the public onsen, and you'll still get the food experience that came with it. And with that, that is basically everything we ate in Kyoto. So let me know what you want to try from this culinary exploration, and thank you so much for watching. If you want to see any other Japanese videos, click one of the ones on the screen. I'll see you again soon.